Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk Kerria Japonica Plenaflora. This is Kerria Japonica Plenaflora, or Japanese Kerria, double flowering Japanese Kerria. Has this pom-pom-like yellow flower on it, where you typically see the regular Kerria has a flat single flower. This is truly a four-season plant. It's got, in the wintertime, it has these really beautiful green stems with a kind of a weeping habit, and so even without leaves at that time it looks great. Then it breaks out into flower here, and we're in Raleigh, North Carolina, zone 7B, so we're about mid-March. In colder zones it would be later than this, flowering, and then it leaves out and has a great foliage as well, so a great four-season plant. So Japanese Kerria are very cold tolerant and very heat tolerant. Almost everybody watching this video can grow this plant. They're hardy in zones 4 to 9. The height and width is somewhat going to be determined by where you're placing it. Probably these have been in the ground for a long time and are only about 3.5 feet tall. But I've seen these in people's gardens in shadier conditions, and they're as much as 8 feet in height with a weeping habit. The width, this is a lot of these deciduous flowering plants like this tend to sucker a bit. So the width is going to be how wide you let it get, really. They're easy to take the suckers out, where this one is becoming a colony here. You could just chop these out to keep it smaller, and you can probably keep this plant, let's say 5, 6, 7 feet in height and 4 to 6 feet in width. But again, you can let it colonize like this one is. This is one of the earliest spring flowering shrubs you can add to your garden. As soon as the soil temperature starts to wake up, these will almost immediately start budding up and flowering. A lot of the flowering happens before the leaves, but then the leaves start to catch up. They're actually pretty long bloomed. They don't come out and do every flower all at once. So this one, despite the fact it's been blooming for a long time already, actually still has a lot of buds, unopened buds on it. So it's going to continue to flower for several weeks. A lot of these spring flowering shrubs can be done in as little as 2 weeks. I think this is more like a month or more. The flowers are, again, they're doubles, where you typically see on the Kerria Japonica. They're single flat petals with the center of the flower more open. This one has the doubles. They're not fragrant, but they really don't need to be because it's incredibly showy. Sun and shade can be a little tricky on these. Down here in the southern zones, if you put them out in full sun, these flowers can actually bleach a bit. And I can see it in this one here in zone 7B. So southern zones, this thing needs a little more shade. As you get further and further north, it can definitely go in the full sun. That will have some impact on its growth habit. If you're putting it in more shade, it's going to stretch a bit. If you're putting it in more sun, it's going to be more compact. So Kerria looks great mass planted as this is, and just allowed to naturalize. So it looks great in less formal gardens, we'll call it. It's great here along this edge of this gravel driveway. It's just kind of coming out and softening the edge. One thing I'll point out, and I've pointed this out on things like daffodils, that this early spring flowering shrub is because of the time of year it's flowering, most of this is trying to grow kind of east and south. And so this is on the perfect side of this happens to be on the perfect side of this driveway, where everything is facing this direction. So it's in this part shade condition. It's going to reach out toward the sun, toward the winter sun. And so this is just a perfect placement of this, where it's really, really showing everything off. It's not, trying to go the other direction. But again, mass planted is probably the best use for this. And again, softening, rigid spaces is what this one's being used for. These are really not really picky about where you plant them. We have clay-based soils here in my area, and I'll mount everything up a bit when I plant them, but really not a lot of considerations. Once you put it, when you got to put this in the ground and keep an eye on the watering for the first year or so. But once it's been established in the ground, I doubt this one is ever getting any additional water other than the rain that's following. And we get pretty regular rainfall here. It's not going to perform at its optimal best if you go 2 months, without water on it in the midsummer. If you had some sort of extended drought, you might water it. But other than that, once established, very low water needs. Not really a lot of maintenance to do on Kerria. It can be pruned after it flowers, but if you do just kind of general pruning across the top of it, it's kind of going to lose this natural look. So if you're doing the types of pruning I would do on this, I would get rid of any suckering that you don't want. So if it's pieces are coming up further from the main plant than you want, you can cut those out with a shovel, just chop them right under the ground a bit. That takes care of that. If you need to prune some height out of it, I would almost follow this branch all the way down into the plant and prune it right at ground level. And that will keep the lower growing branches still in place and keep this weeping habit. We fertilize our shrubs once a year with an organic fertilizer. This one, once it becomes kind of a colony like this, it doesn't even require any mulch. But again, just really low maintenance, very rewarding, year-round interest with the green stems, yellow flowers, great foliage, deer resistant, rabbit resistant, great in dry shade conditions. So very rewarding plant in that way. This is Kerria Japonica Plenaflora. Thanks for watching.